AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael M. Hotep. It is Monday, October 19th, 2020, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. It's been a very busy day, very busy weekend. We had a jam-packed show for our Sunday night show. So we're back here. We are here Monday through Fridays, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time for the African History Network show. And then on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time also. All right. Well, on today's show, we're going to get to some topics that we did not get a chance to get to on Sunday night show because I had a full schedule lined up for Sunday. And we continue for an additional hour on my social media platforms after our 2 hours on 9-10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. And we still did not get to all the topics. So on today's show, we'll do a story that I posted. A number of different outlets had it, Associated Press and some other outlet. Black cops break with unions over Trump endorsements. Black cop break with unions over Trump endorsements. I posted on our Facebook fan page a couple of days ago, and I think it was October 18th, and it got about 2,000 likes, maybe more than that now. So we'll talk some about that, and that also deals with Trump's and order platform, his law and order platform that he's running on. Once he ran that playbook in 2016 and he's running it now, but I don't think it's going to work this time. Then also another huge story that we posted at our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. So if you don't follow us there, go ahead and follow us and turn on notifications so you know when we live. This dealt with fake blacks for Trump accounts using black profiles busted by Twitter. Fake Trump's profiles, fake blacks for Trump accounts using black profiles busted by Twitter. And this was a story we reported on earlier last week. I think it was about Tuesday. It was about Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, around October 13th. And TheGuardian.com had this article, but then Tom Joyner, Black America Web, picked up this story. We posted that article on our fan page, The African History Network, and it got about 2,000 likes also. So we see that social media cracking down on these, and then all back in August about fake black pro-Trump profiles being shut down on Facebook. That actually was a troll farm on Facebook. That was a story from August that we talked about as well. So as you know, we're 15 days away from the November 3rd election. 30 million people have already voted in early voting. And as this election campaign continues, as this election cycle continues, we see more and more stories about disinformation campaigns, especially those targeting African Americans and Hispanics. So you have to ask yourself the question, well, if our vote doesn't matter, why do people work so hard to suppress our vote? Why do people work so hard to have a disinformation campaign to confuse us and confuse us on what date the last day for election is? Because the election doesn't start November 3rd. That's the last day to vote. Okay, early voting it started close to a month ago in general, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, depending upon the state that you live in. All right. So you have to ask yourself the question, well, somebody values our vote enough to go through the trouble to try to suppress it and election consequences. All right. So if you look at what's going on right now with coronavirus, at least 38 states see increases in COVID-19 cases. We're at 8.2 million cases nationwide. Okay. Over 216,000 deaths. Give an update on what's going on with coronavirus as well, because you can't open back up the economy fully, and 25 million people who have applied for unemployment in about the past 29 weeks, they go back to work. Well, half these jobs is already estimated, half these jobs not coming back, period. Okay, which is economy. But for the economy to open back up, you have to get coronavirus under control. The economy can't come back up until schools can open back up fully, and child care centers can open up fully, so parents can have somewhere for their children to go while they go to work, until you get coronavirus under control. But when you don't have a national plan for coronavirus, and you're listening to Dr. Scott Atlas, who's a radiologist, and he's promoting herd immunity, and when you look at the predictive models when it comes to herd immunity for enough people to be exposed to coronavirus, okay, and build up some type of tolerance, okay, you're looking at between 3 to 4 million people dying. You're looking at between 3 to 4 million people dying. Well, 20% of the deaths are African Americans. 20% of 3 million is 600,000. 20% of 4 million is 800,000. Elections have consequences. So you keep playing around if you want to. I tried to tell you in 2016. So we'll talk about these stories to give an update what's going on with coronavirus, update what's going on the campaign trail. And then we talked about back in, let's see, there's another story dealing with coronavirus as well. 8 million Americans slipped into poverty amid coronavirus pandemic, new study says. We did not get a chance to talk about this on our Sunday night show. This is one of the topics I wanted to deal with on our Sunday night show. 8 million Americans slipped into poverty amid coronavirus pandemic. So that just means this year they slipped into poverty. So when people so one of the things we dealt with on our Sunday night show is Donald Trump's Fool's Gold plan. And we dealt with part 6 of Joe Biden's plan to power Black America. Because, you know, May through June, we broke down Joe Biden's 22-page agenda. Power Black America came out May 4th, 2020. And then we just went through it again over the course of 6 weeks again. Okay. So you can know at the African History Network, the African History Network on Facebook, Michael M. Hotep on YouTube. Because we have to understand whatever policies the president puts in place, if they can't handle the economy, if the economy tanks because of fiduciary measures like it's doing under Trump, then what do you think happens to all those promises? What do you think happens to all those plans? Those plans of economic empowerment for African Americans are tied to the prosperity of the overall economy. Well, if they can't handle the overall economy, what do you think is going to happen to the promises they make us? 41% of African American owned businesses have been wiped out as of April. When we look at the report from the New York Federal Reserve, as reported by Forbes.com, 41% of African American owned businesses have been wiped out as of April 2020 because of the coronavirus economy. Well, now it's probably about closer to 50%. But this is supposed to be the big businessman, the unstable genius. He's supposed to be the big businessman to take the American economy places it's never been before. And he is doing that, because the American economy has never seen a 32.9% drop in the GDP in one quarter like it did in the second quarter of this year. That's unheard of. It's never dropped that far. So he is living up to expectations. And he's running the country and the economy into the ground just like he ran his business into the ground. So this is why I don't know what to tell you. All right. So we'll talk about this story also. 8 million Americans slipped into poverty amid coronavirus pandemic, new study says. Researchers looked at the devastating financial effect the pandemic has had on Americans, with African Americans, Latinos, and children facing the worst. Now, what I find interesting about Donald Trump's platinum plan, that's really a fool's gold plan. I told you that before when it first came out. We talked about it and broke it down. I told you it's a fool's gold plan. why doesn't he address coronavirus in his plan that has disproportionately negatively impacted African Americans? Because he doesn't have a plan for it. That's why. And then we're going to try to squeeze in this article. We talked about this back in September when it came out. And I want to revisit this because when we went through and talked about Ice Cube's contract with Black America, the backlash he's getting, things like this. And we talked about how some of the policies that he's advocating for, the Congressional Black Caucus has gotten bills passed in the House of Representatives, but they're being blocked in the Senate. And we talked about the George Floyd Police and Justice Act dealing with policing and how that was stopped in the Senate by Republicans. And then so they put it they then folded that bill into the Jobs and Justice Act of 2020. Okay. So this article came out September 15th, 2020 from newsone.com by Bruce C.T. Wright. We talked about it back then when it came out, but I want to talk about it a little bit again today because a lot of people don't know about this. Because see, a lot of people are finding out about bills that the Congressional Black Caucus has gotten passed in the House of Representatives, but they're being blocked in the Senate. CBC introduces Jobs and Justice Act of 2020 to help Black families economically and socially. This came out a month ago. Not a lot of people don't know this. Now, if you listen to this show, you know we dealt with this on this show when it happened. The multifaceted bill is divided into two parts. The multifaceted bill is divided into two parts. Okay, so we'll try to squeeze that in on today's show as well. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've heard and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events in history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can sign up for the email newsletter there as well. For this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $TheAHN Show through Cash App, $TheAHN Show through Cash App, or through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHN Show, paypal.me/TheAHN Show. And through PayPal, if you want to set up for a recurring monthly donation, you can. So being that we're here 6 days a week instead of one day, the donations really help, because that helps finance the show and keep doing etc. All right, so let's jump into this, because I know we're coming up here on a break. The show is only an hour, but since we've been doing this, we started October 12th. We've never only done an hour. We always go over on our social media platforms. So hopefully we don't go too far over today, because I have to adjust my sleeping patterns as well, because it's been like 3 years since I've done radio 6 days a week. So I'm trying to get used to this. All right. Black officers break from unions over Trump endorsements. Associated Press and other outlets have this story here from October 18th, 2020. Now, police unions nationwide largely supported Donald Trump re-election amid mass demonstrations over police brutality and accusations of systemic racism. But a number of Black law enforcement officers are speaking out against these endorsements, saying their concerns over entering the 2020 political fray were ignored. Now, keep in mind, Donald Trump does not want to address systemic racism in policing. Neither does his Attorney General, William Barr. So if you don't want to address it, if you don't even want to talk about it, how do you even address the issue? And remember, Mike Pence, the Vice President Mike Pence, on the debate stage with Senator Kamala Harris, he didn't want to deal with systemic racism and policing. And in 2016, on the campaign trail, we played the clip from 2016. News1.com has the article and has the clip from Mike Pence on the campaign trail in 2016. And he said he and Donald Trump think there's too much talk about implicit bias in policing. They didn't want to deal with it then. They don't want to deal with it now. All right. Now, Trump has touted his support from the law enforcement community, which includes endorsements from national, city, and state officers unions, some of which publicly endorsed a political candidate for the first time. He's running on what he calls a law and order platform. He's the president of lawlessness and disorder, but he's running again on a law and order platform, and he's tapping into a strain of anger and frustration felt by law enforcement who believe that they are being unfairly accused of racial discrimination. Well, maybe if the rogue police officers, okay, weren't unjustly shooting down African Americans and unjustly subjecting us to searches and seizures and police brutality and things like this, maybe people wouldn't feel that way. I'm not saying there are approximately 800,000 law enforcement agents. I'm not talking about all police officers. I'm talking about the ones that keep getting caught. I'm talking about the ones we know about. Okay. We're coming up on a break. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. station, Future Radio. I'm Michael M. Hotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, everybody. Stand by, everybody. We're up on a break. How you doing? How's everybody doing? Carl, Raymond. All right. Okay, guys. Hey, if you want to advertise with the African History Network, email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. Okay, we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Then African American business, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast also. Just a second here. How's everybody doing? So hopefully we don't go too far past an hour tonight. I really don't want to, but we'll see. All right, everybody stand by. How's everybody doing? Okay, we've got 90, Cudjo, SB. How you doing, SB? Mark. It's been a busy week. Well, it's just Monday, not a busy. It's been a busy weekend. All my days are running together because I'm doing radio at night. So I have to get used to the schedule again. All right, we're back from break in just a minute, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Okay, now let's turn on the screen share. I need to close some of these. I need to close some of these windows. Let's turn on screen share. Okay, just stand by. We're back from break in a minute, everybody. This is live radio. All right, so we'll talk about this when we come back. And yeah, we got a bunch of stories to talk about. All right, we'll be back about 30 seconds. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael M. Hotep. It is Monday, 2020. No, thank Halloween be here. But in a couple of Halloween Eve. First, maybe we'll talk about Hallows Eve and that. All right, let's continue. Calling numbers 313-700, 313-778-7600 is the hopefully and follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and Michael M. Hotep on YouTube, IMHOTEP. All right, break talk about story here. Black officers break from unions. Black officers break from unions over Trump endorsement. Okay, so hopefully stop breaking up as well. But touted his support from the law enforcement community, which includes endorsements from city and state office unions, some of which publicly endorsed a political candidate for the first time. He's running on what he calls a law and order platform and tapping into a strain of anger felt by law enforcement who believe they are being unfairly accused of racial discrimination. Okay, unfairly accused of racial discrimination. Now, there are more than 8,000 law enforcement agencies nationally. The number of minority officers in policing has doubled in the last decades, but many departments still have a smaller percentage of the communities make up. Let me repeat this. The number of minority officers or non-white officers in policing has more than doubled in the last 3 decades, but many departments still have a smaller percentage of Black and Hispanic officers compared to the general population those communities make up. Now, many fraternal organizations were formed to advocate for equality within police departments, but also to focus on how law enforcement affects the wider African American community. Okay, the fraternal African American police organizations were formed to advocate for equality within police departments, but also to focus on how law enforcement affects the wider Black community. There have often been tensions between minority organizations and larger unions, like in August when the National Association of Black Law Enforcement Officers issued a letter condemning the use of deadly force, police misconduct, and abuse in communities of color. Now, while support for the Republican and for Donald Trump does not strictly fall along racial lines, while the support for Donald Trump does not strictly fall along racial lines, many officers say the endorsements for Trump don't fairly represent members. Many African American officers say the endorsements of Donald Trump fairly represent all dues paying members. Some of them are saying, hey, Donald Trump, okay, the union, but we don't support Donald Trump. Rochelle Bilal is the recent past president of the Guardian Civic League of Philadelphia. And she said, we are members of these unions and they don't take into consideration, then they don't care about us and they don't care about our dues. She called the National Fraternal Order of Police Trump's endorsement and outrage. The endorsement of Donald Trump by the National Fraternal Order of Police, she called that an outrage. Now, Rochelle Bilal, who was elected as Philadelphia's first African-American female sheriff in 2019, spoke at an early October news conference with other African-American law enforcement groups in Philadelphia to condemn Donald Trump's endorsements. And the process, they say, ignored their concerns over what they perceived to be racist remarks, support for white supremacist groups, and a lack of respect for women from Trump. But national union leaders say the process is designed to give everyone a voice, and the endorsement represents the majority of officers. The Fraternal Order of Police represents close to 350,000 officers nationally, but does not track racial demographics. Now, Rob Pride, who's the National Fraternal Order of Police Chair of Trustees, said, I'm a Black American and a Black law enforcement officer. It's been emotionally a roller coaster ride for me since the George Floyd incident. It was horrific. Now, Rob Pride, who oversees the vote that leads to the organization's presidential endorsement, says the May 25th police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the climate, quote, is tearing America apart, and having a similar effect on the Fraternal Order of Police, he said. Now, National Fraternal Order of Police leaders say they have heard from members who don't agree with the Trump endorsement, and they're open to talking over concerns, but that all 44 state Fraternal Orders of Police chapters that cast a ballot voted for Donald Trump. Imagine that. So why are they voting for Donald Trump? Because maybe it's because Donald Trump and the Trump administration and Attorney General William Barr have taken a hands-off approach to policing. Maybe it's because doing investigations into the patterns and practices of police departments that were taking place under the Obama administration. Remember when Donald Trump was getting in front of police officers and he said, you know, when you put a suspect in the car, you don't have to tell them watch your head. You don't have to put your hand up. Don't be nice to them. So Rob Pride said the whole process starts locally, with lodges passing out candidate survey answers and ballots, and then voting at a statewide meeting. State delegates then voted at the national meeting. He said, quote, "We could probably have an hour-long conversation about why some folks feel Donald Trump is racist and why others disagree. But there are a lot of officers of all races, of all backgrounds, who feel he best represents and supports the interests of law enforcement, but he doesn't follow the law." He's the president of lawlessness and disorder. Guy that turned federal office on peaceful protesters in Washington, so he could clear the square to walk across the street to hold a Bible upside down to take a photo out. This is the same guy who threatened to use the M18 on protesters. This. I mean, he's the president of lawlessness and disorder. So on the local level, police reform bills driven by racist, on the local level, police reform bills driven by protests against police brutality in the wake of George Floyd's have also stoked local unions' endorsements of candidates for state offices at higher rates this year. Some issuing endorsement for the first time in decades, while many union leaders the endorsements are not based on political parties. They've largely been for Republicans challenging candidates who voted what unions call anti-police reform bills. Oh, so you don't want police reform. So if the Fraternal Order of Police and other police unions don't want police reform, therefore they're supporting Donald Trump, then what does that tell you? Let's look at this again. While many union leaders say the endorsements aren't based on political parties, they have largely been for Republicans challenging candidates who have voted for unions call anti-police reform bills. Oh, you mean so you can people in codes? You mean to keep you from putting a knee on somebody's neck for 8 minutes 46 seconds? If the police unions are supporting Donald Trump because the police unions are against candidates that want police reform, and if we want police reform, then what does that tell us? Philadelphia Order of 5 President John McNesby, and we're going to try to refresh this. McNesby said in a statement that which represents 6,500 members did not make an endorsement in the presidential race and referred to its parent union's endorsement, but said that despite being the largest lodge in the state, they weren't given a chance to vote or be counted by the state or national delegates. Now, denouncing the endorsement process, the Guardian Civic League has asked its about 1,200 members to be prepared to withdraw their dues from the National Fraternal Order of Police, withdraw their dues from the National Fraternal Order of Police,